Hi, everybody. Welcome to Television Nation. Here's our identity video. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Television Nation. I'm Tracy Swedlow, the Swedlow Show. So unique. What a unique name for my show. But there was a lot of alliteration. I couldn't pass it up. So anyway, I am honored and excited to have two people whose careers, I don't know, who I've been following for a while. I haven't known you for 30 years, but whose work I've been following for a long time. And they co-founded a company called Stornoway.io. So I'm really excited to have Kate Dimbleby and Howe.
Hello.
And it's exciting that you could be here. You're calling from, are you in London? Are you in Wales? Or where are you right now?
Close. We're in Bristol, one hour out of London.
Bristol.
An hour.
I at the great engineering feat, Brunel Suspension Bridge, Bristol's known for.
And I actually had the choice to go to Bristol when I did my junior year abroad. I could go to London, Bristol, or Manchester to study drama. And I always wonder if it would have been a huge adventure out in Bristol, but I chose London for obvious reasons. It's
in fact, our headquarters are right next to the oldest theatre in the whole of the UK, Bristol Old Vic. So I went to a show there last night and it was fantastic.
Oh, that's right. Of course, before we get into the whole discussion of interactivity, television, and AI, I just want to say I love the fact that you also love performance and theater and singing and musicals. You know, I've written a musical.
Yes, absolutely.
TV, the musical.
Yeah.
So we'll have to talk about that another time. I don't want to hear about your performance work. Anyway, so we are here to talk about AI, creativity, innovation, interactivity, a lot of my favorite things. So tell us a little bit about what Stornoway does, if you would.
Yeah, sure. Kate, do you want to start? Because I'll bang on forever.
So we've been around now 6 years. Can you believe that, Tracy? I think we met you 5 years ago, coming out of the pandemic. Stornoway is pretty much the only interactive video platform currently being used to design and deliver interactive experiences at scale for businesses wanting to use it for learning and training, but also entertainment, edutainment. We're seeing a lot of exciting projects around that area. And it came out of nothing to do with me. It was basically from Rue's experience working in media for decades, seeing the problem of interactive. Many people have expressed it, the fact that the creators want to make it, but the technology isn't there. Projects are spun up at huge scale with a lot of cost. All the code is thrown away. No one learns anything. And so Rue said he waited for someone else to build an infrastructure for interactive content, and nobody did. And so 6 years ago, we co-founded Stornoway and we built that infrastructure, and we now are being used. We have 60,000 interactive projects being made from anyone from kind of pharma and healthcare companies doing healthcare education, but also TV, Paramount, for which we won an award, 2 awards at the TELEVISIONATION Awards, and then Discovery Education are doing some amazing work. 3 awards.
Well, one was for another project, wasn't it? But yes,
yeah, advanced advertising. So again, and we might get into that. But so yeah, that's the kind of potted history of us. And Rue can probably explain a bit more.
Man, you've done everything that I usually take half an hour to do in 90 seconds. Perfect. Thanks very much. Yeah, the idea was to try and create. I mean, without wanting to repeat what Kate just said, the idea was to try and create both an interface that would make it very easy, like Adobe Premiere. I worked very closely with the Adobe team in the first TV edits anywhere in the world, here in Bristol, when we were doing natural history shows with Adobe Premiere before anybody else was using it for TV. And I ran those edits and that workflow and worked closely with the Adobe team on building interoperable workflows. Broadcast is all about interoperability, of course. And so I wanted to build an interoperable workflow, but on the front of it obviously needed to be an interface that was super easy for for anybody to be able to use to create interactive content without being a developer. And then underneath it, an open standard web player that would just use web technology, nothing proprietary, nothing that would stop big companies putting it into their systems, and underwritten by open object-based media, which is a concept developed by the BBC and sort of explored by a bunch of different media companies, particularly here in the UK. Object-based media data model that basically takes interactive content, breaks it up into objects, wraps a whole bunch of metadata there, and just describes in a kind of project file, a bit like a Premiere or an Avid, project structure, saying, here's all of your media, here's where it links to, here's what it does, here's where all the overlays are, here's all the data. It's all written into that thing, and then you can plug it into anything. We have a Unity plugin, and you can build games on the top of it that go out to game platforms and mobile apps, and then it goes on the web and it plugs into other third-party systems. We can migrate stuff to and from. So it's like a properly interoperable, open infrastructure for people to deliver. Yeah, I mean, I'm saying
next generation content, which is your area.
It sounds like you've built a game engine for interactive content.
Exactly what we've done. Yes, yeah, you've just boiled it down to like from 90 seconds down to like 3 seconds. Right, it's a game engine for interactive, and as a result of that, we've unlocked the ability to be able to plug LLMs into that, to take the data out of that and expose it so that it can be read by answer engines, so that people can deep link into the content from all of the traffic that's going away to Google AI overviews and things like that. So all of that is there, rather than just being video's always just been a bit of a dumb block on the web, and I've always been a bit offended by the way that video has been a second-class citizen of the web. Text and images get all of the fun stuff, and video just gets plunked on a dumb block on a web page. And I wanted to turn that inside out, and so it's super exciting to see all of the creatives that use our platform that we have no input into, and then they just take it and do beautiful things.
Win awards. They win awards.
Yeah.
We have to talk offline about creating this and getting this stuff into the hands of TV creators as well. Long story, but
interesting news.
I was here in the back of my mind a comment that I'm not going to directly quote, but I remember hearing Charlie Brooker.
Yes.
saying, I'll never do interactive again. I had to build this thing from scratch for Bandersnatch, for Netflix. It was a nightmare. I'll never do it again. And yet you built something.
He missed us by a year. We launched after Bandersnatch had this has been cooking in my brain for a very long time. And one of the things that made us actually finally pick up the digital shovels and put some money behind making this thing was because Netflix was starting to invest in interactive content. But of course they did it in a way, and sorry to anybody from Netflix who's listening, they did it in a remarkable way where they did things that other people haven't done, but they did it at much greater length than should really have been done, and without any creative tools. So they ended up having to build their own sort of tool in retrospect to try and help people out. But they would have benefited so much from having Stornoway. Like Charlie Brooker said, it was like doing a Rubik's Cube inside his head. Everybody felt like they were losing their mind, and they spent so much money and time making something that now.
And that wheel is coming round again, isn't it? Like, of course, what we've experienced in the time we've been going is that those big broadcast organizations, as Rue knew from the start, like it's very hard to do something innovative in that environment. But now, because creators, because AI, everything is fast forwarding, people's expectations of what is possible has shifted. So we are now restarting those conversations with the right partners about like, this is the scale of what's possible. And also this isn't just about AI. It's about giving the right tools to the humans to be able to really change the dial in terms of how you're interacting with the audiences.
I would think you probably need to move pretty fast, because all of these platforms like Magnific or Dramina or all of these AI creation platforms, I'm assuming, because they haven't really talked about it, although vaguely I heard it at a conference recently that they want to build interactivity, or they are building interactivity into it. So are you involved in these kinds of conversations? Is this an API integration, or like what is this?
Lots of.
Is there a desire, do you think?
It's an interesting thing. I think TV, like the broadcasters and streamers have got their own technical challenges. I remember being at the BBC and talking to somebody who I won't name, who's extremely senior there back in 2008, and the conversation about YouTube where they were like, it is, you know, it's just a few 100,000 views. I mean, it's never gonna, I just feel like it's a distraction. It's, you know, do you know how many people we reach on a Monday night? And they just couldn't get across. And we're still in that place where they are really, they can't quite see the fact that everything in their whole life is interactive. And so I think the mistake that people coming from I guess a broadcast or a gaming background is to think of this kind of interactive content as just branching, right? It's like you see a video and you get a choice. Do I go left? Do I go right? It's like a choose your own adventure. And that is one of many things that you can do with it, and it can do it brilliantly. But actually what it is turning a video into an interactive document. So it's kind of, you know, it's sort of, we have, you know, we go and see people at large organizations who are trying to get their heads around this, and they're like, is it a PowerPoint? Is it a website? Is it a video? It's like Superman, you know, is it a bird? Is it a plane? It's all of these different things, because essentially it's media, chunks of media with overlays over the top of it, and data and text and buttons. And so you're allowing people to create applications basically out of media. And it can be video, it can also be images, and it can be web content. And so I think that what's different about our approach from this point of view is that most people, when they think about interactive, they're thinking about interactive additively. So they're thinking, I've got a video, I want to put some buttons on it that might link somewhere else. I want to stick a buy now button, or I want to put an overlay over the top that, you know, has some
metadata,
or a second screen, exactly, metadata in, or a second screen application that does something. And this is saying, there's I mean, I wish I could show you the way that the interface of Stornoway is like a flow chart where you are building out modules of content like you would build out a website or an application. And you're thinking about one of the awards from the awards in Montreal was user interface, user experience and design. And that I think, you know, part of that was about this design that we created for Mixmaps. Well, actually, we co-created with this incredible producer, Rebecca Atkinson. She had a vision that she wanted to allow people to be able to turn on and off different types of accessible content, low contrast backgrounds, as well as different types of subtitles, different types of audio, signing over the top, British Sign Language, American Sign Language, Makaton. American Sign Language wasn't in this one, actually. And then also add in prep content. So for people with neurodiversity needs or emotional support needs, they could say, explain what this show is about. Teach me what the signs mean. You know, what toys can I use to play along with this kid's show? And then
so they're building their own mini episode.
There were just a couple of menu screens at the beginning. You pressed a button, and then the episode played out with all of these different layers and all this additional content. And the community that it was aimed at, which is, you know, a community of people who use accessible content, just were really emotionally overwhelmed by creating this one-to-one experience. And that came from a producer who'd been thinking about Rebecca Atkinson, who had been thinking about this for a really long time, and there was no way of doing it. But because the interface is so open, and because the workflow is so open, we could just say, yeah, you just combine these elements in the way you think about doing it. And it didn't require any developers, any software developers, any custom build. It was just using this pre-build.
She created 10 episodes. I'm going to let you play it out, Tracy, but she created 10 ultra access episodes of her animation Mixmaps. Of course, now what we're seeing and talking to Paramount and others about is like, there's a scalability. Once you've got that structure, you can scale it. And that with the right partners, that's where the excitement, because I think, until coming back to your original question, which is, does anyone want it? No one wants anything until they can see it. The moment they see it, they're like, I want something like that. So we were immediately approached. Rebecca had an article in The Guardian here over in England about her first experience of subtitles as a young child.
And teletext, yes, yeah.
And then suddenly she was there creating this totally groundbreaking format, because the technology and her vision came together. And now people can see that. They want to make more of it.
And people are picking it up in like financial services to use it as a way of allowing multi-access content for like hard to understand financial products. I mean, it's the way that this stuff works is a bit mad. And medical, you know, healthcare, medical education, people are trying to communicate really complicated things that might be a bit of soft skills. It might be a bit of deep information. And really what they're trying to do is create a website that talks to them and has voices and has pictures and moves. They don't want to create a little static learning module. They want to create a kind of interactive movie, but it's a useful thing rather than just an entertainment thing. It's super interesting to see what people do.
I feel like now that AI is so much a part of the landscape now, and people are trying to innovate every single day and find new things to do with it, that the time is coming to unite those two things.
Absolutely.
Right? Even in television entertainment, although we do see experiments with interactivity on Netflix, right? We do see T-commerce or shoppability showing up, sort of basic corporate sort of interactivity. But I feel, but we get it on a big connected TV. The OEMs, the Samsung, Vizios, LGs of the world have to work with you. Did you want me to show that mix-up thing quickly?
Yes, go on.
Okay, and then I'm going to follow up with a question about the connected TV market.
Yeah, the AI stuff. The AI stuff is interesting. We can come back to that as well, like what we're seeing with that. Great.
Okay.
Oh, so this is this. Oh.
Well, this is the intro, but is there?
Do we get the interface coming on this clip?
I think it skips to the main content rather than the main screen. That's okay.
I'm sorry.
If we pause it for a second, maybe.
Okay. So I think I could talk to this. So yeah, we don't get that front screen. If people want to watch it, they can't actually in the US. You can watch it.
I could share it here.
Rue's going to share it.
Yeah. Okay, I'll share
that. While you're finding it, I mean, my question is: are you talking to the OEMs, like I said, the Samsung, Vizios, LGs of the world, about building your game engine for interactivity? Is this part of the discussion right now? Is it still too early? Are they even seeking this out?
I feel that conversation is maybe as blocked as it like there are some blockers there, right, which you will know about, Tracy, from me. And actually where Stornoway is really taking flight is in this delivery into apps, into again with this AI format we've built that means that if you search in Google AI, you can drive people to videos like in the middle of your video on your website rather than to YouTube. So that I think we're starting to see the problem that everyone's been saying, which is how do we get people to look at our content and where?
Well, traffic's falling, yeah.
Kind of educated streaming platforms are thinking about that really hard, obviously, and it's quite rare to meet the right people in the industry to kind of go, this is an infrastructure piece and we can solve it for you. But actually, on the other side of it, organizations like Discovery Education, people serving millions of people all over the US, are suddenly seeing, oh yeah, we can tie together all these different Gen AI tools in different kinds of media, make it interactive and get it discoverable on the web, in an app, in these different locations.
And to come back to the connected TV piece, I think there's a triple bind, which is I've seen blocking television. I mean, again, I could go back to BBC and how they initially started doing iPlayer and then had to massively pivot because they had the wrong end of the stick. But I think, you know, they ended up with something great that was sort of web-based, but and now is apps on the TV. But I think the problem that we see again and again, and we've seen even before this, we're starting this, is that you go to the content people and they're like, oh my God, yes, a commissioner says, this is fantastic, I want to do this. Can we deliver this on our platform? And I say, well, it's open and it can be used. We just need to talk to your tech people. So they put us in touch with tech people, and the tech people say, well, we haven't heard any demand about this. It's not on our roadmap because we haven't heard any demand about it from the content people. And we're like, well, we just come from the content people and they didn't know it was possible, or they've never even thought about it. They thought that it was like a game, like not part of their world. So they want to know if you can do it, they'll commission it. And they say, well, you have to prove to us that it's going to increase engagement, you know, like we're in this endless death loop.
And then
like
we give them so many good stats, like the advanced.
They never want to take a risk and step forward.
That's right. And they want to outsource the blame for the thing to another department. Well, content teams wanted this. The tech teams won't allow it. So it dies. And the reason that Netflix were able to do that is because, of course, they were at the time when they did their first interactive piece, their content and their tech teams were quite well integrated, and the product team actually got to go and talk to the program makers and pitch them like we want you to make an interactive thing. This is how you can do it. You know, the tech people were talking to Charlie Brooker and Annabelle Jones, not round the houses, and they wanted to try and innovate with that. Whereas, I won't name names, but a lot of other places, you just hit this double bind of.
Shouldn't you give Charlie your platform and let him see, you know, what's possible?
I think he was so broken by that experience. I doubt he'll ever do it.
And I think there is a what was I going to say? Where our experience has gone over the past 6 years. Like I said, we've seen 60,000 projects. Students go mad with Stornoway. That like they're actually the next wave. And you can see in China that thing of short clips and episodic content. It's so obvious to them that the future is this format. And I think where we are seeing our expertise having kind of allowed this kind of proliferation of content on our platform is now that we can, whoever we work with next, it's an education piece of like, let's talk about the different kinds of formats. Let's make templates that make it easier for people to make and deliver.
What are some of the formats, or how are people using it? We know it, like you said, in China, there's so much interactivity. So we haven't released it yet, but we've got an AI assistant who creates little, and again, I would call them, they're like, because they're built on our architecture, they are literally a little, they're like the big inside of a sculpture, you know, without it, it's nothing. Anyway, you can make, perspectives are really popular, seeing things from different people's perspectives. So flipping between perspectives. We also see, obviously, choose your own adventure. We also see quizzes. We see kind of first person perspectives really popular with the younger generation. That idea of, we just did a roundtable on the future of edutainment, as we call it, because again, that is huge now on YouTube, people watching Mark Rober, and that idea of kind of giving the agency to the viewer to feel a bit like a game, like they're the first person and they're making choices through wherever they're going. The Mark Rober stuff is really interesting.
The Mark Rober stuff is really interesting. So he's for those of you who don't know him, he's a big YouTube star, become a big Netflix star, and he uses Mark Rober.
Okay.
R-O-B-E-R, and he's a very charismatic science educator, and he's huge.
I love science YouTube videos.
He's amazing. He's got more followers on YouTube than Taylor Swift, because
I better go find this guy. Maybe I already know who he is by his face, but I love space-time stuff and quantum physics.
Yes, stuff. Yeah, and he does really relatable. He does super relatable education, and what they use, his Crunch Labs, which is his sort of brand, what they use Stornoway. Yay! That's much more my speed than Kate's speed. Kate's
sorry. I'm sorry. I couldn't look. There it is.
Very good.
Okay, anyway, go ahead. Speaking of games, that's a pinball machine.
So you know, some of the examples of what he does, he's literally just talking to the camera, talking with his partner, you know, his co-presenter, and they're coming up with ideas. And essentially, by one of the crazy things that happens when you are particularly in kind of factual, I mean, whatever the format is, but if you're presenting to camera and you're asking people to engage with it, and they know they're going to be asked a question and they're going to have to press swipe, whatever, to engage with something, that their brains turn on a different way. So he's like, you know, there's an example that we often use of like weights swinging together and seeing how much something's going to be displaced, and to understand gravity and momentum. And so you click these different options. He gives you these different options, and then they all come through, and they all end up in the same place. And each time, he and the presenter are like, And so you're exploring this content in a non-linear way. And because you're exploring it in a non-linear way, not just sitting back watching it, you're leaning forward, you're leaning into it. I mean, all of this lean forward stuff from the 1990s.
You're gamifying education, and creating
communication. There's something. There's no mistake that, like, you referred. Sorry, Rue, to speak over you,
right.
But you're used to it. But what you said about my background in theatre, like it's no coincidence that a lot of people who've been interested in interactivity for a long time have theatre backgrounds, because it's a no-brainer. It's like, that's how the best stuff works.
They make such good stuff.
And I
innovative
think
stuff, you know,
and we quite often surprise because there's some really high-end stuff. The Business Insider advert for Amazon that won the Advanced Advertising Award, really beautiful production values. But actually, for me, that there's a simplicity in just bringing the audience in to an interactive conversation with a good presenter. It's magic. It's beautiful because they get to feel like they're in the room with you.
I love to go to plays or musicals and then have a talk back. You know how they have talkbacks on a particular occasion, but you physically have to go there and think about how limited it is. And I mean, as much as I love live entertainment, live theater, it's limited to a small amount of people who are willing to go. Think about doing something where you can do a theater piece or a film piece or any form of acting, and then have a talkback and interact with the performers and with the director and ask questions. People do that in chat, but if you could do something more interactively on the screen and communicate. Go ahead.
Where we're seeing that going is into obviously prompts and people, you know, asking questions that create this we're talking more and more about adaptive content. But I think one of the big we talk about formats, there's so many different formats because people just bend their imagination to it. One of the big formats that has really cut through in lots of places and been used by the United Nations and is now actually part of the driving test in India in lots of different states is interactive conversation. So you record a conversation and essentially, you know, a regular video production team or person chops up conversation into different elements and then literally you just present that. And then you provide people the ability to be able to ask different questions at different times as they go through so you're not just watching an interview, the person who's cut that interview up is allowing all of that stuff that used to have to sit on the cutting room floor because the piece was only 2 minutes long. Now you've got all of these pieces and people just keep on watching and they say, oh, you know, where did you grow up? And as the basic stuff, and you can drill right down into stuff. And with the drink driving thing that Diageo and the UN did, that was about being able to really talk to people who had been drink drivers to understand how it had screwed up their lives. And if you were to do that just as a flat video, you probably wouldn't get past the first 10 seconds. But because it's interactive, you lean in and you're like engaging with this person, and not just that, but then they measure behavior change. So they ask people questions about what their attitudes are about drink driving before, and then you have this conversation with this person, this virtual conversation, and really just low quality Zoom call recordings, and then at the end they measure measure your attitude again, and they're able to prove like 90% behavior change across, you know, 1 million viewers. It's nuts. And it's, you know, all of this is gold, but all of this is delivered out through the web and apps and TV.
And I think the way the landscape has changed, talking about AI and avatars, you know, that's all happened in such a short space of time, that actually what we're seeing very happily for us, because as you know, we've always been, we're making something to empower creativity, across the board, you know, whether it be on a really large organizational scale, but also human-led creativity. And I think what's happening now is, and this came out of our conversation with BBC media producers alongside other edutainment people at our roundtable, was that the younger generation are craving authenticity in this world. They have, like, they've even stopped trusting the natural history programs. They think they're AI. So they're craving somebody actually with a penguin rather than some beautiful drone shot of a penguin. So I think the kind of landscape in terms of how we tell those stories is really changing in ways we don't even fully understand.
And the natural, you know, again, natural history pilot that was turned down, not for the beauty of it, but because the platforms wouldn't move their technology on it back in, this is even a few years ago, was, you know, like a top natural history producer making an incredible little piece where you got to basically make decisions on behalf of a lioness and how she looked after her cubs. It was, you know, just simple, really simple concept made with archive, reusable content. Everybody was up for it. It went to all of the platforms and they were all like, yeah, no, we can't do that. And I think it'll come around because it has to, because everything's hemorrhaging.
Well, and we are now finally. We're in the room with some more, we're in the room with some people. So
sounds good. Sounds exciting. And with so much consolidation in media, it'll be interesting to see. I'd love to see the educational science programming channels, you know, take up your challenge here. I think that would be that would demonstrate the power of their platforms, which I don't think they have taken advantage of. That's another larger story issue.
Well, because there was some amazing stats.
Are we out of time?
Oh, sorry.
You out of what?
Are we out of time?
No. So I mean, we can keep going. I mean, I know we're 30 minutes, but here's the thing. I want to hear more about the fact that all of this interactivity can also capture data, which is important. And I want to hear more about adaptive video, because that's what you are, you have innovated. So I want to hear a little bit more about that. Tell me how what that means. What is adaptive video?
Do you want to take this first, Kate, before I just do loads of tech talk?
It's interesting. The CEO of Adobe, they did a summit recently, and they were talking about an audience of one, weren't they, Rue? Yeah. And I think what we've created is the ability to make media that adapts according to who's playing it, watching it. Previously, that's been done by an algorithm that's in a black box, and it's over here with the tech guys. What we've enabled is the ability to craft that whole journey through it, so that you're meaningfully testing and iterating that adaptive journey. You can swap stuff out if it's not working. Like you say, you can see the data. Like, did they choose that choice or that choice? You can A/B test it like a website. So you can change the wording on all the platforms where it lives and see if people engage better. So there's, it's something
is that in real time? Is that in real time? Yes. Or?
Yeah. Oh, you mean in real time?
Yeah. So I think in 2 ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen people try to build platforms like that, where you can change the video or put something in, and it immediately puts it out into the broadcast or wherever it's showing. And it adapts to people's interests based on how they're reacting at that moment. So it's basically like, as they say, like vibe directing, as they are sort of using in the AI space these days, right?
And we think of it a little bit like, I mean, again, Rue, you'll have a different answer for this, but there's a sort of smoke and mirrors effect, which is that, as we all know, as creators and producers, you want some controls around that experience. Otherwise, like, people freak out about, like, but they can't just choose anything. And so what I think, those structures that you create and iterate, there's a mixture of making it feel really live, or making it feel a bit crafted and authored, and like you're taking care of them on that journey. Rue, having said that,
I think there's a line, right? There's a continuum between, like, everything that's prefixed, pre-rendered. You spent 10 million on this beautiful natural history show. You spent 20 weeks editing it. It goes, I mean, the money and time, they shot 1,000 hours per hour that goes out on television. I spent some time in this world, and then it comes out and it's done out on television. And then at the other end, you've got incredible Google generative worlds, where you're walking into a place that's being generated live for you, and that's obviously going to grow, but there's very, very few controls on that. The place that we live in with publishers, mostly with, like, a significant proportion of our customers are publishers of one form or another. I mean, and also corporations doing training. All of those things require some.
You're doing museums too, and healthcare.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Any situation where you've got some sort of brand sensitivity, you want some brand controls around it. And it's interesting, again, name dropped Adobe too many times, but Adobe are trying to make their experience platform put some guardrails around this AI stuff, so that their chatbots and their kind of brand concierges stick to brand and stick to messaging. Some of that stuff is still, a bit freeform, and I think what Stornoway allows you to do is to be able to create a kind of governance structure around your content. So you're creating pathways that you're structuring, and then as you're also creating content, either creating that structure with AI and then creating media that goes in there with AI, or you are opening up to data sources coming into it. Because the other part of adaptive media is that you can bring people's data sets in from your customer data profiles, and that can then inform the experience, right? So you're designing something in your editor, in your beautiful visual flowchart editor, without being a developer or a programmer or anything, that just says, if this person is this age or this type of person or has this type of role, then show them this content, or take them down this pathway, or reveal this option to them, or let them have more of a deep dive into
branching.
Yeah, it's branching, but it's also kind of layers as well, right? So it's
layers
to show you maybe if I can share the share that Mixmups screen, I can give you a
You want me
sense.
to, the one I just showed?
No, the actual menu screen.
No.
And so here we go. So this, can you see this?
There it is.
Yes.
Great. All right. So this is just my desktop. So excuse me for anything else that's in the middle. So this is just, a direct web player, and you can turn on subtitles, or choose to have British Sign Language, or I can turn on simpler visuals, and then prep content is there. And this is just it's essentially a page. I go to another menu screen, and I'm going to choose that I want to have some signs explained from the episode, and I want play along items. And then we're going to cut to the, when I say mix up my axis, we're going to see a bit of what you saw before. And what we'll see here, turn this down a bit, but what you're going to see here is that little mix up scene, which is their thing. And then there are now play along items. That's what I chose. I want to watch that first. And there's a little scene here, which is the playing along items. And somebody gives me idea. And there's the signer that I turned on, and there's the subtitles that I turned on. And if I skip through to the next section, it's going to show me the British Sign Language signs from this episode, so I can learn some signs from what the signs that are going to be used in this episode. And
this would be great entertainment for little kids. I mean, it obviously is, but instead of plunking our child down in front of Sesame Street, which which is fine, but it would have been good to have more control, more specificity. Maybe she would have learned these kinds of things at the time.
Yes,
would have had more control as a parent.
This is then the main episode with signing, with subtitles and simpler visuals. So for people who want to have kind of basically a grayed out background behind everything. So you can see here, this would normally be full color, but the characters are being pulled into color and the backgrounds. So that's an example of using AI here to be able to separate the characters in the foreground from the background and change that color to create that visual style. And then you can, whatever that program is being personalized for that viewer. And if imagine that in a business scenario, that somebody is got these different characteristics, the content that they see, I should turn that off. The content that they see is going to, you're going to allow for a medical consultant, much richer, deeper content for them, or for somebody who is interested in steam trains versus something else. You're going to be able to show them different content.
And then the next generation of that. And what's interesting is, Tracy, what you're saying, which is there is something different about that than like YouTube, where you get served up, you go to something and then you get served up loads of stuff that's supposedly related and very often isn't. So we're definitely seeing people wanting to take back control of that environment and create these little pre-configured pathways. And then of course the next part of that is you can then bring in, for a larger organization, you can bring in information recognizing the person, giving them details. We call it
the overlays that can recognize their name, or say talk about where they are, and then bring that out back up to the data platform as well. The choices that they make enrich the data platform, and then that comes down to inform the next video, and so on. It's like a closed loop of beautiful enrichment.
I mean, I would think that the advertising community at some point will understand the power of and the potential for this to explore their product in different ways, to their universe, their style, the different versions of their product. I mean, that's where the big money could be made eventually down the line. Obviously, I love narrative and children's entertainment and science education. I think there's a business out there also. And there's a business out there also for influencers and creators to get their hands on this, because they want to sell their brands, they want to tell their story, their life, and I feel like you need to get that audience aware of the potential of this, which is what we're trying to do now.
Yes, but it's really, I think it's all leveraged by big platform partners, right? So we have some we have some super big customers in US companies who are helping us, deliver out to millions of people, just not in your TV in your living room. And that like as Kate said, that Business Insider Amazon campaign that one of the awards at the ITVT Awards were for was an advert that essentially, if it was just served out as a linear advert, would get maximum 10 seconds of viewing time, and it was getting 3-4 minutes on average as viewing time. People were just continuing to watch and play. It was nuts. And yet, because it's because it's the
It
way
had a really cute dog in it.
it did have a cute dog. It had an engaging little story, and so it enabled them to be creative. But essentially, at the heart of it, I mean, it was just advertising where they were saying, here's a place you can see this Amazon product. Here's another place you can see this Amazon ad product. Here's a place you can see this other Amazon ad product. But because it was wrapped in this, and it wasn't even really a game. I mean, there was some gamification there, but it was just an engaging experience that was a different thing from a lean back.
Are we talking about also the ability for a viewer to move into a world where all of your objects are available in a database in your gaming engine, and say, I want to hear a story that does this, this, and this, or they're given certain choices and they create their own story interactively?
I mean, I think is
that something that you?
Well, I can say the AI. It's really interesting question, because obviously, Gen AI is promising a lot, and as we know, in the hands of the right people, it can do some really exciting things. The same applies to interactive storytelling, which is in the hands of the right people. You can very much have that happen. How far you want to do it for them is a really interesting thing, because you sometimes take away the creativity by doing too much upfront. So for example, we have developed our own sets of rules around our AI assistant to create really fully fledged interactive adventure games based on all our understanding of like how those principles of game work.
I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. I've cracked something that nobody's been able to crack before in terms of just understanding long form interactive story with a structure and models and these different agents that are able to keep track of a long form interactive story. It's really, really hard to do. And those are being used for now for AI generation of useful scenarios for business, but also you can just create games, and not games that are like the auto-generating adventures that you can. I mean, they exist out there where like the AI just keeps on giving you more things, a bit like when you're with your kids and you're maybe doing a choose your own adventure with the kids and you're thinking up what the options are on the fly. This is something where it generates, and then you can go and you can polish it, and then of course you can generate media for it. And see, it's kind of like you're creating a Dungeons and Dragons style world, and you're just able to do it, and it'll think through it, and it's going to take you 3 minutes, and you'll have hundreds of sections of your story, and it all flows through and has consequence. It's
as
incredible.
You can see, we have, like, when you come back to like how many different businesses we have in one.
Yeah, it's nuts.
I think, and I think that is our challenge now, is that like, obviously, I would love to just hand that out. And in fact, Discovery Education, there's a really interesting opportunity to possibly get kids just playing with that version of Stornoway. Because it's critical thinking, it's game making, it's non-sexist, so it's non-gender based because there's no code involved. Sorry to make that point. So obviously,
it's fair enough. Fair enough point. There's a huge bias for interactive design and always has been through the. But which AI vibe coding is opening up, and our intersection with that, I think, just gives this potential opportunity to many more people. Yeah.
If you come to TVOT in December, which we have to announce yet, which we haven't done yet,
yes.
I want to introduce you to a whole series of AI companies and TV companies. But that's just an extra comment. So we need to get closer to the end of this interview, because I could keep going on forever, but I need to let people get back to their
hello everybody.
World. So my one creative challenge for you: if you had an unlimited budget, unlimited computing power, AI tools, your brains, what would be your ideal project or interactive experience that you would like to create? What's your dream?
Kate, you look like. Do you want to answer this, or do you
I think you should answer this, because I think you've got an answer. If you weren't so busy running this company.
I've had this really weird experience, Tracy, of coming into this with ideas. Like I started, I was reading those. I probably got some behind here. Yeah. So like choose your own adventure, and like find it, like a lot of the essence of this thing comes from these fighting fantasy books and choose your adventure books, turn to page 182 game books. And then I started making films, and then I wanted to combine all those, and I was coding early on. I created this thing so that I could make things, and where I've ended up is just like making more tools for people to make things. And I think what I always think when I come out of this is actually what my passion outside of this is ancient things and archaeology. And really what I want to be able to do is create a world explorer of ancient sites, which gives me an excuse to go to these places that combines beautiful photorealistic 3D 360 video plus tours of places plus information about those places plus 3D explorations of those places, because you can have 3D, forgot to say, inside Stornoway, 3D places where you're able to explore and move through those places. And I think that, although I've come from this kind of fiction filmmaking background originally, I think I've ended up in a place where I just want to explore archaeology and open that up to people. And I would use all of those resources, and there's that AI generation. There's some of the stuff you see with, you know, on TikTok of like stepping through time. I mean, most of my TikTok is now just like different places through time, you know.
One of the other award winners at the TVOT show in Montreal was the guy that's doing those Chloe versus history.
Right, exactly what I was thinking of. Yeah, exactly. Oh,
and
yes.
He lives in England, you know, the guy who's behind that.
I did know that. Yeah. Absolutely.
And I actually am supposed to be interviewing him very soon.
Well, send him my fondest regards.
I think you guys need to chat.
There's a reason this is all, a lot of this comes out of England. We are sort of obsessed, I guess, because we're so old, in layers of, you know, unfolding. What adaptive media is about layers and different pathways. And if I go through this, you know, you go to London and you go down an alleyway and suddenly you're back in the 16th century. I think it's made us all really interested in more than a flat screen. It's like,
I remember in the early 2000s at the American Film Institute Enhanced TV Lab, right? It was about doing innovative prototypes and things like this. And this is way before everything.
Yeah.
So one of the projects I thought was very exciting, and I think you can do it now to some extent, which would be to walk into a museum or walk into a historical site or whatever it was, have your screen, and it would show you the AR overlay. Yeah. And you could interact and find out more information and walk through a space. I mean,
yeah, we go to ancient places quite a lot, and I really, you know, whether it's Delphi or Rome or Orkney or, you know, central Bristol, wherever it is, the ability to be able to hold a lens up, you know, a phone, sure, a tablet, whatever, and to be able to see how that was then as an artist's impression would just be, I mean, it is possible. It does get done, but to do it on a more consistent basis where, you know, you can do that reliably.
And I think understanding, we had the head of engagement from the Imperial War Museum. I keep talking about this roundtable for edutainment. We're going to publish it. So, but he was talking about his problem engaging people is getting them to look and be curious. Like that is the challenge now, because we've got these, it's so easy to do that. And I think
then you have to bring it back. Yeah.
That mixture of like AR, but then if you want to, you click on a video where someone talks to you, you move to like different media, depending on, that's how I see the adaptive part of this, is like giving the agency to the person to follow their curiosity, to click on, you know, that's it.
I think where we sit is the design.
Follow my curiosity. I love that.
Yeah, we provide the kind of the deterministic design layer between that. So you can open up to that, plug into it, and then allow some constraints. So it's not just, I mean, I use a lot of AI, I use billions of tokens. And, you know, I've invented a system called Henge to help me, named after Stonehenge, to help me manage my token usage by half. But it is...
What? I want to hear about that.
I know.
I'm going to release it.
Tracy.
It is amazing.
I need that.
And it also helps the consistency of the context and like works. It's a great thing. But I know from deep experience that it doesn't do what it's told all the time, and it freelances and just I know from talking to all the people we work with that as much as they love it, they have some serious institutional constraints and they need to wrap around that, and that's what they like about the ability to be able to create content and take advantage of that, but also wrap some deterministic controls around that, you know.
Well, There's so
We'll
many.
send you the Henge format, Tracy. I think we're going to release it.
Great,
But,
great. We have so much more to talk about.
We didn't get to talk about TV the musical and your use of your ability to create the past, like, create the World Fair. Was it the World Fair through that?
New York World's Fair, 1939. Did I send you the
I've seen it.
clip?
Like done it, and well, I've seen it through maybe your emails or
No. I only sent you the opening number. I didn't send you the 18 minutes that I've done so far. I'll send it to you. This is. I didn't want to talk about myself, but thanks. I've been making other anthology short pieces, by the way, all in a concept called the living room.
Nice.
Love that.
Right? Of these short pieces that are kind of Black Mirror-ish, Charlie Brooker out there. They're kind of weird and strange, and it has a television. All right, enough about me. I'll send you my stuff. I'll send you some links. I'd love to hear your opinion.
Great.
I can take criticism, but I absolutely am passionate about the fact that you are allowing people to follow their curiosity and to give them the power and the tools, the platform to do that. I think that's courageous. And it also reminds me that Philo Farnsworth, my hero, although like I said, just interviewed Ian Logie Baird, the grandson of John Logie Baird, the Scottish inventor of mechanical television. But Philo always said that he wanted people to see how other people lived and to find out ways to, on the idea of inventing television was about to share and to be interactive and to, all of these kinds of things, because he wanted to prevent war,
Yeah.
And he wanted to support people's curiosity about other human beings. And so that's what you are doing. So good on you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we really, really hugely appreciate your support over all of the years. You've been a great supporter of us. Thank you so much.
Well, come on out to San Francisco, because I think there's a lot I want to interact, introduce you to. All right. Thank you. I really appreciate you spending time with me today, and more to come, hopefully, from you guys. And that's it for now.
Everyone can check us out on the website. Get in touch.
Yeah.
Thornaway.io.
Please go sign up for everything that they do
and chat
and buy their stuff, invest in their company, whatever they want. Give them what they want.
You heard it from Tracy.
Okay, but also subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you.
Yeah.
Or the newsletter. All right, thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day. Don't get offline, though, YouTube.
No.